Hi, welcome to our channel where we share the most intriguing stories. When freedom meets suburban tyranny, sparks fly, and sometimes fists. One Texas family thought they'd found peace outside HOA control until the Queen of Conformity came knocking. What followed? A barefoot brawl, viral justice, and the ultimate showdown in the driveway. Life out here was supposed to be peaceful. That's why I chose this piece of land. Away from the rigid plastic world of suburban conformity, away from the HOA overlords measuring the angle of your blinds. I built our home with my own hands, stone by stone, board by board. Our house sits proudly just outside the official boundary of the Rivercrest Garden Homeowners Association, and I made damn sure of that before I bought the lot. My name is Justin Brady, 42 years old, engineer by trade, freedom lover by principle. I live here with my wife, Savannah, and our son, Wyatt. Our backyard opens to the woods. Our porch faces the HOA gates, but we're not under their thumb, not legally anyway. And then came her, Karen Bettany, the new self-proclaimed queen of Rivercrest Garden. Tall, tanned, and taut-faced, she wore her presidency like a badge of nobility. The kind of woman who drives a Lexus that she parks diagonally across two spaces for visibility and speaks in HOA bylaws like their gospel. Karen made it clear from the first week of her regime that she didn't like our house, or us. Said we were an aesthetic deviation. That was her phrase. Aesthetic deviation from the visual intent of the community, whatever that means. She came by one afternoon in early spring. I was in the garage tuning up the mower. Savannah was inside, baking banana bread, the smell of cinnamon and defiance floating through the window screens. The knock at the front door wasn't a knock. It was a series of short, authoritative raps like a principal about to ruin your day. I opened the door and found Karen standing there in a tailored powder blue blazer, holding a clipboard and an expression that could curdle milk. "Mr. Brady," she began, not waiting for me to answer. "I'm here to discuss a few matters regarding your property and its impact on the surrounding community." She didn't blink. I stood there silent, arms crossed, letting her fill the void with self-importance. "You should know that several residents have expressed concern about the condition and positioning of your vehicles, as well as the eccentric landscaping choices visible from the main road." She gestured vaguely toward our wildflower patch. "We at the HOA strive for visual harmony." I reminded her, politely at first, that our property was not part of the HOA, that her visual harmony ended at the old oak tree 20 feet from her sidewalk. Her smile tightened like a zip tie. "I understand your interpretation, Mr. Brady, but Rivercrest Garden is expanding its community oversight boundaries. It's in the interest of shared value and neighborhood appeal. We have the right to review." "No," I interrupted, firm but still civil. "You don't. I've got a property line and a deed that says your little kingdom ends where my gravel starts." That's when she handed me a thick envelope. Inside was a courtesy invitation to the next HOA meeting and a typed list of recommended actions to bring my home in line with community values. A fresh coat of beige paint, a new mailbox, removal of the handmade iron address numbers Savannah and I forged together during our anniversary trip to Montana. Apparently they were non-conforming. She stared at me, daring me to argue. Then she offered a little wave. "I encourage you to consider joining the HOA formally. It would make things easier. I'll leave you to think about it." Then she turned, heels clicking on the pavement, as if she'd just conducted an important diplomatic mission. I stood there staring at the envelope, feeling heat rise in my chest. Savannah came out, wiping her hands on a dish towel, and asked what was going on. I handed her the letter and muttered, "The HOA came to knock on freedom's front door." She read it and laughed, but not with humor, more like a warning. And I should have listened to that edge in her voice, because that knock wasn't just a suggestion, it was the first warning shot. And Karen, she wasn't the kind of woman who took no for an answer. The weekend Wyatt and I left for his swim meet in Austin, I had no idea I was leaving Savannah in enemy territory. We loaded up the truck early Friday morning, duffel bags, swim gear, his lucky goggles, and hit the road while the sunrise still painted the sky orange. Savannah stood on the porch in her robe, holding her coffee like a torch, blowing us a kiss. "Don't let those judges mess with you, Wyatt," she called. "You're a shark, not a minnow." I had parked my truck, the old black Raptor, on the side of our garage the night before. Not in the driveway proper, just a few feet to the left, under the oak tree, still completely within the bounds of our property, but yes, visible from the street. It wasn't exactly pretty that morning, caked in road dust from a hardware store run and still carrying a few ladders in the back, but it wasn't hurting anybody, or so I thought. By Saturday afternoon, Karen must have smelled weakness. No truck in the driveway. No scary man around to challenge her paper-thin jurisdiction. Just Savannah, a yoga mat in one hand and a gardening trowel in the other. It started with a clipboard guy. Savannah told me later that a man in khakis and a tucked-in polo showed up around 10 a.m., pacing on the sidewalk with a camera and a measuring wheel. She stepped out to ask if he was lost. He claimed he was documenting property irregularities on behalf of the HOA. She laughed. We're not part of the HOA, so unless you're from the IRS, you can go irregularize somewhere else. He left, grumbling. 20 minutes later, the real madness arrived. Savannah was upstairs folding laundry when she heard an engine she didn't recognize. Low, chugging, mechanical. She looked out of the bedroom window and saw a flatbed tow truck backing into our driveway. A white pickup pulled in behind it, blocking the exit. 3 men got out, all in matching gray pseudo-uniforms. Tactical vests, utility belts, even knockoff radio earpieces, looking like they'd gotten lost on the way to a Comic-Con cosplay event. One of them held a clipboard, another had a tablet. The third, already approaching my truck with a crowbar. They didn't ring the bell. They didn't knock. They didn't even hesitate. Savannah bolted down the stairs barefoot and burst out the front door, phone in hand, camera already rolling. "Excuse me," she shouted. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" Clipboard guy turned slowly like a movie villain. "Ma'am, HOA enforcement. This vehicle is in violation of community visibility standards and has been flagged for removal." "Flagged by whom?" she snapped. "This is private property. Our property. We have standing authority through Rivercrest Garden HOA Resolution 9.14. Vehicles that are not actively used or appear derelict." Savannah cut him off. "It's a 2021 Ford, parked yesterday. It still smells like motor oil and beef jerky." That's when the guy with the crowbar popped the hood without permission and began attaching a winch cable. Another one pulled out his phone and started recording like this was some kind of evidence-gathering mission. "Stop touching that vehicle," she warned. "I will call the sheriff right now." "You're welcome to contact HOA legal support, ma'am," said the tablet guy smugly. "But we're operating within assigned authority." Savannah squinted at his badge. It said HOA Patrol, laminated, crooked, and misspelled. They had no badge numbers, no vehicle decals, not even the courtesy of pretending they were real. But they looked confident because they thought no one would challenge them. They didn't know Savannah. I don't know what exactly snapped in Savannah at that moment. Maybe it was the blatant disrespect, or the fact that someone dared step on our land like they owned it. Maybe it was just the sheer audacity of 3 overconfident men treating her property like a repo yard. But I do know this. Those boys picked the wrong barefoot woman to mess with before lunch. She told me later she gave them one last chance. "I'm going to say this once," she said, stepping off the porch, phone still recording. "Unhook that cable, step away from the truck, and get the hell off our property." Crowbar guy chuckled. A little too loud, a little too fake. Like a man bluffing through a bad poker hand. "Lady, you don't scare me. This is standard procedure. Don't escalate things." Wrong words. Savannah didn't answer. She moved. She closed the distance between them in seconds, barefoot on concrete, no hesitation, and drove her elbow into Crowbar Guy's chest like she'd been waiting for this moment all week. He stumbled backward into the truck's open hood with a gasping, "Oof!" That would have made a stuntman jealous. Clipboard guy lunged to grab her arm. He barely got his hand up before she twisted, planted her weight, and dropped him sideways with a sweep kick that sent his tablet flying. He landed hard, clutching his shin and groaning something that sounded like medic. The third one, the cameraman, his instincts kicked in, but all he could do was fumble his phone and yell, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, easy lady. I'm just documenting." Wrong again. She snatched the phone from his hand mid-sentence, tossed it into the birdbath, then spun him toward the curb like she was auditioning for a law enforcement demo. He tripped, fell flat on his back, and lay there blinking at the sky while she calmly stood over him, breathing steady, hands on her hips. By now, one was wheezing, one was whimpering, and one was flat out immobile. Savannah picked up the dropped tablet, flipped the screen toward her, and saw a paused video frame of our truck with the words "evidence of blight" typed underneath it. "Blight this," she muttered, and smashed it under her heel. The driveway was dead silent. You could hear the birds again. A neighbor across the street stood on his porch with a watering can, frozen mid-pour. His jaw hung open. Somewhere down the road, a dog barked once, then thought better of it. Savannah turned to the camera still recording on her own phone, looked directly into the lens and said, "If anyone from Rivercrest Garden is watching this, we are not your property. Come on to our land again without permission, and I promise you, next time I won't be barefoot." She panned the camera slowly over the three men on the ground like she was capturing war trophies. One was quietly crying. Another muttered something about just doing what she said. The third, still on his back, arms out like a chalk outline. Savannah walked back inside, locked the door, and made herself a smoothie. Savannah's never been one for dramatics, unless she's watching Die Hard on Christmas Eve with a whiskey sour. But when I later watched the security footage of what happened that morning, I swear it looked like something between a Marvel fight sequence and a deleted scene from Cops, Suburbia Edition. She'd already dropped the crowbar guy and sent Clipboard Man to shin splint rehab, but the third guy, Cameraman, made the worst mistake of all. He tried to tackle her. Now, Savannah may be barefoot, but that woman taught self-defense to women's shelters for 7 years. She once disarmed a would-be mugger using only her purse, a dog leash, and a chewing gum tin. Cameraman never had a chance. He ran at her yelling, "Ma'am, calm down, you're making it worse," as if he were the victim of an emotional spiral. Savannah sidestepped him with the grace of a ballet dancer and used his own momentum to launch him head first into our hydrangea bush. That poor shrub, it never stood a chance. The man vanished into a cloud of pink petals like a magician's assistant during a botched trick. "Do not," she said, turning toward the other two who were crawling toward the tow truck. "Touch my truck, touch my house, or touch my fucking tulips." Crowbar guy, still wheezing, raised his hands. "Lady, we were just following HOA directives. We're contractors. We're not even real patrol." "Oh, I know you're not," Savannah barked. "Real patrols don't show up in matching vests from the dollar store." That's when one of the idiots, Clipboard guy, tried to roll away on the ground like a commando in a war movie. He didn't even realize he was rolling straight into the birdbath. There was a splash. There was a scream. And then there was Savannah, holding up his soggy laminated badge like it was a piece of cheap evidence in a very stupid crime. She walked to the truck, popped the door open, unlocked of course, and took the keys. Then she stepped back, filmed each of their faces in turn, and calmly said into the camera, "This is what happens when you pretend to be the law in Texas. Bless your hearts." Meanwhile, neighbors had started to gather. Old Mr. Ron from down the hill had wandered over in his robe, slippers shuffling, holding a cup of instant coffee and muttering, "Well, damn. Reminds me of Name." A teenager across the street filmed everything from a hoverboard and whispered, "She's a legend. I'm making a TikTok." One of the HOA clowns, now curled into the fetal position under our mailbox, whimpered, "Can I just call my boss?" Savannah looked down at him, eyes full of the same calm fury she used when our son once flushed a drone down the toilet. "Your boss," she said, "is about to have a very bad day." Then she marched into the house, barefoot, triumphant, ponytail swinging behind her like a flag of war. She didn't just win the fight, she ended it. And me? I was still in Austin at the time, unaware that while I was yelling, "Go Wyatt," from the bleachers of an indoor pool, my wife had just turned our driveway into a battlefield. All I knew was I had 17 missed calls, 2 voicemails marked urgent, and 1 blurry text from Savannah that just said, "3 men tried to steal your truck. I put them down. Call when you get a sec." When I finally called her, she was casually flipping pancakes and asked, "You want blueberries or chocolate chips when you get back? Also, the police are coming." By the time the police rolled up to our property, Savannah had already swept the metaphorical battlefield. One of the faux enforcers was sitting upright, knees to his chest, muttering something about needing a chiropractor. Another was still tangled in our bush like a dazed garden gnome. The third had scooted under the tow truck and refused to come out unless someone promised him a lawyer and a juice box. Savannah met the arriving officers at the end of our driveway, like a queen greeting her knights. Calm, barefoot, arms crossed over her "Fight Like a Mother" t-shirt. She gave them a short wave and said, Boys, you're gonna love this one. 3 squad cars, 2 county deputies, 1 plainclothes detective who had that expression cops wear when they know their paperwork's about to triple. The lead deputy, Officer Marquez, took one look at the scene and muttered, "Jesus. Looks like a meth raid went wrong." Savannah handed him her phone with the security footage already queued up. "Don't worry," she said. "They weren't high. Just really, really stupid." The footage spoke for itself. The entry, the trespassing, the blatant tampering with my truck, the glorious physics-defying takedowns. Marquez watched it like he was studying game film. "They said they were HOA patrol," he said, raising an eyebrow. "Did they also say Santa deputized them?" Savannah snapped. Officer Price, the younger one, knelt beside one of the collapsed men and said, "Sir, do you have any identification?" The man reached into his vest and pulled out a laminated badge that read, "Rivercrest Guardian Patrol, Level 3 Compliance. Agent." It looked like something printed on an elementary school color printer. There was a gold star sticker in the corner. No barcode, no number, not even a real name, just Agent Curtis. Marquez looked at the badge, looked at the man, then looked at Savannah. "Did you buy these guys off Craigslist?" "No," she said, "but I'm starting to think Karen did." And just like that, as if the universe heard her name, a silver BMW rounded the corner at HOA-approved speed. It screeched to a halt in front of our house and outstepped none other than Her Royal Highness of Rules, Karen Bettany. She wore a navy blue blazer over a pastel blouse like she was about to attend a Senate hearing, sunglasses perched on her head, lips tight, clipboard in hand. I swear she never leaves home without one. "Officers," she called out as she power walked up our driveway. "There's been a horrible misunderstanding." Savannah raised an eyebrow. Did the HOA accidentally send goons to the wrong century? Karen ignored her. She turned to the officers with urgency. These men were simply executing a community code compliance measure. Rivercrest Garden enforces strict standards on— "This isn't Rivercrest Garden," Marquez cut in. "This is the Brady property, unincorporated land, not under HOA jurisdiction." Karen blinked. For a split second, the mask cracked. Then she rallied. Be that as it may, the vehicle in question was visible from the main road and— "That doesn't grant you the right to invade private land, dispatch unlicensed contractors, or forge authority," Officer Price said sharply. Karen looked genuinely confused. They're not contractors." Marquez held up one of the badges. "Ma'am, this is a sticker on a laminated business card." Karen opened and closed her mouth like a malfunctioning ventriloquist dummy. I had no idea. I was under the impression this was a neighborhood protection detail." "Based on what?" the detective asked, stepping forward for the first time. "Did you vet these individuals? Run background checks? Verify licensing?" Karen stammered. "It was an internal initiative." "You authorized an illegal tow from land you don't own," he said. "And you sent 3 untrained men to do it." Then, calmly and without ceremony, he turned to his partner and said, "Cuff 'em." "Wait, me?" Karen gasped. "I didn't touch anything." "But you orchestrated everything," Savannah chimed in sweetly. "And in Texas, that's called criminal solicitation and conspiracy to trespass." I Googled it. The cuffs clicked. Karen gasped like someone had spilled wine on her HOA newsletter. The officers read her rights while the tow truck boys were loaded into cruisers like rejected stuntmen from a bad reality show. Savannah stood on the porch, arms crossed, watching it all with a smile that could cut steel. And me? I was still driving back from Austin, listening to a voicemail from Officer Marquez that began with, "Hey, Mr. Brady, you're going to want to come home. Your wife just took down an HOA sting operation." By Monday morning, we were already viral. Some neighbor kid uploaded the ring footage to TikTok with a dub of Mortal Kombat music and the title "Barefoot HOA Slayer Goes God Mode." It hit 2.4 million views by lunchtime. A slowed-down clip of Savannah knocking the phone into the birdbath became a meme. HOA logic drenched in reality. Reporters started calling by Wednesday. Meanwhile, I was on the phone with my attorney, Janet Russo, a woman who could intimidate a judge just by sipping coffee. She reviewed everything. The video, the forged badges, the audio Karen accidentally left on her voicemail. If he won't comply, we'll just yank it. What's he gonna do, sue me? And calmly said, "We're going scorched earth." And scorched we did. Janet filed a civil suit against Rivercrest Garden HOA and Karen Bettany personally for $1.5 million. Charges? Let's count 'em. Criminal trespass, attempted conversion of private property, harassment, conspiracy to commit unauthorized enforcement action, and my favorite, defamation of aesthetics. Yeah, she included that just for flair. We also filed for punitive damages citing malicious disregard for jurisdictional boundaries. The judge didn't even blink. Y'all came in hot, he said. I like it. HOA's legal team tried to play it cool at first. They showed up to court in matching navy suits with gold pins and the dead-eyed look of men who'd overestimated their turf. They filed a motion to dismiss, claiming it was an internal disciplinary misunderstanding. Janet replied with a 37-page affidavit, a forensic breakdown of the fake patrol's online hiring ad, Patrol Rivercrest, 50 AKTSR, must provide own badge, and a screenshot of Karen's group chat message, if we look official enough, he won't fight it. When the judge read that out loud, he actually paused, looked over his glasses, and said, "You typed this?" Karen, seated at the defense table, shrank 2 inches. And then the press showed up. Local news anchors, a podcast crew, a live streamer from Dallas who narrated the trial like it was The Bachelor. Headlines flooded in. Texan woman takes down rogue HOA operation. Fake patrol, real jail time, suburbia's wildest feud. She fought the law and put it in a headlock. Savannah stayed calm through it all, but I saw the twitch in her eye when a reporter asked if she was planning a self-defense class called How to Fold a Man with Your Elbow. She just smiled and said, I'm considering a coffee table book. Karen, for her part, started unraveling during cross-examination. Janet asked, can you explain why you authorized personnel with no licenses to conduct enforcement operations? Karen replied, they were community partners. What kind of partner brings a crowbar? Silence. The crowbar was Exhibit C. It sat on the evidence table like a rusty monument to poor decision-making. When the jury returned, they didn't even look at Karen. Full judgment in our favor. Rivercrest HOA was ordered to pay $750,000 in damages and to issue a formal public apology. Karen was personally fined, hit with a restraining order from our property, and banned from serving on any HOA board for 10 years. Her mugshot made it into a meme titled, When You Tried to Tow a Texan's Truck Without Asking. The next week, HOA meetings were flooded with residents demanding accountability. The old board resigned en masse. A new committee was voted in, mostly consisting of people who began their speeches with, Remember the Savannah incident, and me? I installed a brand new mailbox shaped like a bald eagle holding a tiny No HOA sign in its beak. Savannah made matching t-shirts. Life was good. We never wanted to turn our home into a fortress, but after what happened, let's just say, we invested. First came the wrought iron gates, custom-built, motorized, with facial recognition, and a speaker that greets visitors with Savannah's pre-recorded message. State your name and your business. If you're HOA affiliated, please turn around before you embarrass yourself. It's polite-ish. Then came the cameras. 5 of them, including one on a rotating pole we call the Owl. It tracks movement and plays a siren that alternates between a coyote howl and the phrase, This is private property. Trespassers will be politely educated. Savannah had the idea for the sign. We mounted it on the gate, carved in wood, lacquered to survive Texas weather. Big, bold letters. This is not Rivercrest Garden. This is Texas. Trespassers will leave, bruised and enlightened. And just below it, framed in brass, was a photo of Savannah in full glory. 1 foot on the busted tow cable, sunglasses on, smoothie in hand. Caption, Next unauthorized tow truck gets towed. By us. People come by to take selfies with the gate now. A biker gang once asked if they could buy Savannah a beer. We've politely declined offers to make her a folk hero, but let's just say Barefoot Avenger of HOA tyranny has a nice ring to it. As for Karen, last I heard she was attending court-mandated mediation training. Rumor says she tried to organize her knitting club into a compliance committee. They voted her out. We just laugh. We sit on our porch at sundown, gate closed, cameras whirring, and smile as neighbors drive by, some waving, some saluting. Savannah raises her glass, looks at me, and says, You think they'll try again? I sip my beer and shake my head. If they do, honey, they better be wearing shin guards. And that's the story of how our peaceful little property became a line in the sand. A lesson carved in steel and sass, Texas style,